to the 4th episode from the Heavy Metal Music Manor. I'm Alaric, featuring today's episode about Iron Maiden. So, as you can see, we have some of the latest albums merch. We got a back patch, we got CD, and we got a record and a fan club magazine right here. And then, so some standout tracks on this album for me is Writing on the Wall and Hell on Earth. And we saw the Writing on the Wall video, and we thought the album was either going to be called Writing on the Wall, Belshazzar's Feast, or, either one of those. And we saw the video, and there's a samurai, and we're like, what? It's like, we were thinking, what does that have to do with Writing on the Wall? And Writing on the Wall is kind of biblical in some ways. But it's just, Samurai Eddie was like, that does not fit whatsoever. So we didn't, even before that, before they put out the single and all that, we didn't even think Iron Maiden was going to put out a new album. We thought Book of Souls maybe was their last album, but I'm glad it wasn't, because they needed one more album. And so we're going to talk about, so when we saw that the album was called Senjutsu, we were like, wow, this is just, wow, incredible. And it's like, that sure as heck explains why there is the Samurai Eddie. And with the Samurai Eddie, the album's called Senjutsu, and the meaning of Senjutsu is tactics and strategy in Japanese. And that is about Senjutsu. And now we're going to talk about some of the stuff we have right here. And here we are with our Maiden stuff. We got signs. There's Leopold with Adrian. There's me as a baby. And Leopold with Nico. And there's me sleeping as a baby, Leopold and Bruce. And we have right there my mom. And there's Leopold, and we have Nico again. And then there's me pulling Yannick's hair, and there's Leopold. And then right there we have Leopold meeting Steve Harris at a British Lion concert. And British Lion and Iron Maiden are two really good British metal bands. And both of those bands are, really cool. And both bands have Steve Harris in them. And we, as you can see, we have all these action figures from Maiden. So that's what I have to say about Senjutsu, my favorite Iron Maiden album, believe it or not. So now Leopold is going to talk about the album Peace of Mind. All right, Leopold?
Thanks, Alaric. Great to be back again, episode 4 from my vacation to nowhere. I didn't enjoy it, it's too touristy. So
good.
Anyway, so the interesting thing about this is that Alaric has demonstrated such an interest in Iron Maiden from a very early age. And Senjutsu, Tactics and Strategies, really is his generation of metal from Iron Maiden, my favorite band. And I think probably his too. And we will be seeing them, he will be seeing them for the first time in Seattle in September, the end of September, and they'll be starting their tour in Europe in a few weeks. Lucky Europeans. And I'm really excited to see them again. I've seen them many, many times all around the country. My first time seeing Iron Maiden was 1986 in Philadelphia on the Somewhere in Time tour. And I'll never forget that night. It was just amazing. It was fantastic. Incredible night. Fantastic. Just full of energy. But that wasn't supposed to be my first show. A quick story. In 1985, when they were, 84 was the Power Slave album. I was 13, but they didn't really get to Radio City Music Hall in New York about 1985 that time. And they were touring the album in 1985. And my father and I went to Radio City Music Hall. And you certainly have to understand the difficulty of getting from New Jersey to New York City is not an easy task. And, just ask any New Jersey. Now, I can tell you this. We got there, and unfortunately, Bruce had strep throat. It was the heartbreak of my teenage years, and I'll never forget it. But I didn't want to stay in the city. I just wanted to go home. And you can imagine the heartbreak, but I got over it. I really was so heartbroken, but you can't help it. You know, Bruce was sick. There were a couple of days they lost at Radio City Music Hall due to that, and God bless him. I mean, Bruce, I think, tried to press on. I'm sure he did, being the strong guy that he is. But still, missed opportunity, no big deal. Okay, so in 1986, a year later, I got to finally see them. But my first record, because I'm holding the CD of Peace of Mind, released in 1983. I didn't hear, when I heard this album, I didn't know about Iron Maiden, Killer's Number of the Beast yet. I wasn't aware of those albums. I was standing on the lunch line at my school, in the cafeteria, and a friend of mine had a cassette of Peace of Mind, and he showed me. I asked him, what do you have in your hand? And he showed me that cover, and I just couldn't believe my eyes, as I'm sure so many young people did when they saw this artwork of Eddie getting his lobotomy in the crazy house there, and ended up in the rubber room. They lobotomized Eddie. They took his brain out, and and so that wasn't really fun for Eddie. And you can
Eddie's
see
not going to be that smart
anymore.
Yeah.
You certainly wouldn't want to take him, his brain out for lunch. I mean, you wouldn't eat that thing. It wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
No taking brains. But anyway, so the thing is, this was my first album I was exposed to, and when I first heard Where Eagles Dare, when I heard Nico McBrain do that, I was just floored. Now, I didn't realize he was not the first drummer. It was Clive Burr. Certainly on the first Iron Maiden album, Iron Maiden, Killers, Number of the Beast, but then Clive left after Number of the Beast. What's important to understand is that the first actual recording of Iron Maiden, the Soundhouse tapes, it was Doug Sampson. All right, so that was the very first recording they made with the Soundhouse tapes. That was really amazing to have a hold of that. And at any point, you could say, if anybody had the Soundhouse tapes, you were lucky to get a copy of that. Anyway, but then Clive was on the first three, and then Nico this was his first album he was on. And I couldn't believe it. And what I love about this album is the crispness of it. The production was so good, and the playing, you just couldn't get better. It was just, to me, it was landmark music. I knew it was landmark music being made in my life as a kid. But when I heard first Where Eagles Dare and then Revelations, I'm like, what is Revelations? What's Quest for Fire? I'm like, oh, okay, what's that? Where are these references coming from? So it sounds corny, but Iron Maiden helped me. I read more. When they, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner was later with Paraslave, came out after that. And, you hear about titles like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, and what's that all about? So you really think about, okay, I'm going to read some more. It's interesting. So Iron Maiden got me to read more. So good for them and great for me. So Peace of Mind, my first album. I think probably the standout tracks for me, I think To Tame the Land and Still Life. Of course, you could say The Trooper, which is staple of every Iron Maiden show. Yeah, every Iron Maiden show that you hear The Trooper. But boy, I'll tell you, it would be nice here to Tame the Land and something like Still Life. But again, anything they play is fine by me. Just play Iron Maiden.
If they play Maiden, it's incredible.
Yeah. So Larry, come back over here, please. Come join me back into the video. So as you can see, Alaric's generation of Maiden.
Yep.
And of course, you can see we have a Dance of Death poster there. But I have to say, what's important for me and for Alaric is certainly to, keep this music alive in our own manor, our household, in this time of music and interesting times we were living in now. Because now that the pandemic's over, we have a lot of albums being put out now. A lot of artists are really productive and wanting to tour. But we're going to say that's pretty much all we have for today on this episode. We're not sure what we're going to have next. And we're putting out some of these videos pretty quickly, but it depends upon when we feel up to it, we'll put them out. But anything you want to share with the people out there?
And your homework is going to be either Senjutsu, or you can listen to Peace of Mind. Peace of Mind's an earlier Maiden album, and Senjutsu is their latest album. All right, see you next week from the Heavy Metal Music Manor.